Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Community Q&A with Mayor Don Scott as we recover together from the 2020 floods. I'm Adam Hardiman with the municipality, joined again today, as I mentioned, by Mayor Scott, as well as our Chief Administrative Officer, Jamie Doyle, and our Deputy Chief Administrative Officer, Matthew Huff. If you'd like to ask a question, as always, please make sure to do that in the comment box right below today's live video, which will be available once again in its entirety following today's Facebook Live. A short reminder, we are going to go for a half hour today as opposed to the normal hour that we're with you. That's because we do have a council meeting today beginning at 4:30. You can follow that audio stream at rmwb.ca/council, where you can also view the agenda for tonight's items. So we'll be back again on Friday with a full hour, but we'll be with you for a half hour. So we're not going to waste too much time. I want to make sure we get to your questions. So without further ado, for some opening remarks, I'd like to ask Mayor Scott to come forward.
Thanks very much, Adam, and hello, everyone. So I just want to remind everybody there is a town hall tomorrow evening at 6:10, and if you'd like to register for that, you can ask questions through that technique as well, and it's at rmwb.ca. So there is a council meeting this evening, and that's going to begin at 4:30. So there's going to be a lot of discussion. There's going to be updates on a lot of the key information. We'll be talking about water, we'll be talking about the flood, and we'll be talking about COVID. So there'll be updates on all three of those items. So please, if you can tune in, you can go to rmwb.ca to tune into that. I did speak to ACO Gas and ACO Electric. They are going to be out in full force, and that's what they've been telling me. So I know that a lot of people are frustrated waiting for that to happen. So they tell me they're out in full force. I know they've got significantly increased numbers to get those things hooked up. DRP, the Disaster Relief Program, that's a provincial program. There's a technique where it's supported by the federal government. Deputy Mayor Allen and I and our CAO have been talking to the provincial government about that the last few days. We've had very good conversations, and I can say that we're feeling very optimistic. Now, the DRP program is not going to replace and put people in the same position they were before the flood, but it's going to provide assistance, and it's going to be, in my view, something that's well needed for this region. And based on history and precedent, I believe, and I'm very confident that based on history and precedent that we deserve to qualify for that, and that's exactly what we're saying to the province. And we are also making an ask of the federal government, and that's going to be discussed at council tonight. So with that, I'll turn it back to Adam.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Scott. We're about to get to your questions here shortly, but just a reminder, we will be with you again tomorrow with a telephone town hall beginning at 6:10 p.m. You can find out how to sign up for that at rmwb.ca/recovery. You may be already on that call-out list, as we did one last week, and as you remember previously in our response to COVID-19. We'll also be back with another Facebook Live at 2 o'clock on Friday as we continue these regular community updates. Of course, you can go to rmwb.ca/recovery for all the latest updates on flood recovery as we recover together from what's been another unprecedented event in our community. Of course, you can follow the municipality as well on Facebook and Twitter for real-time updates, as well as the pulse line is with you 24/7, 780-743-7000, rmwb.ca/pulse. So thank you once again for joining us. Get those questions in. We'll be with you for about a half hour today as we head into a council meeting, a special council meeting today at 4:30, which you can follow along at rmwb.ca/council. So we have a number of questions here related to the boil water advisory, which was extended on Monday in an announcement, of course, that by Alberta Health Services and shared with you by your municipality. First two questions are from Keith, and then we have one from Diane as well as Kelton. I'll ask Matthew Huff to come forward. Keith is asking, has the water been tested? And if so, are there dangerous contaminations in the water, such as animal waste, heavy metals, bacteria? Keith also asks, if the water is safe to shower in, why has it been suggested that we use hand sanitizer after washing hands in it? Diane asks, why isn't the municipality providing free water to the community during this water advisory? I can advise that we are providing water to the evacuees and people that were directly impacted by the 2020 flood, but a good question, Diane, so thank you very much. And Kelton asks, what is the turbidity level? So I'll ask Matthew Huff to come forward. Thanks.
Good day, everyone. I'll just speak generally at first, hopefully answer a number of questions that you may have. On Monday, I spoke about a phased return to normal operations for our water treatment plant and our distribution system. An amount of work that would take 120 days, 120 work days. Worst case would see us working on this through the summer to see a completion at the start of September. But I also spoke about work that staff were doing to find out if this phased work could be done concurrently. Meetings have taken place with our Government Alberta colleagues, and indeed that is the new timeline that is being developed. And my commitment to you is that before the end of the week, we will have information that will be area specific. So community by community, so that you know how long the boil water advisory will be in place in each area. Suffice it to say, this is work towards taking less time to do the work that we need to do. So I'll answer these questions now, and there'll likely be more soon. Has the water been tested? And if so, are there dangerous contaminations in the water? And that question's coming from Keith. The water is tested. It's tested regularly and in numerous locations throughout the city. I have been asked by a number of people for access to those test results. We will be providing information in the coming days so that you can all see the data as well. Keith, maybe the same Keith, maybe a different Keith, is asking if the water is safe to shower in. Why has it been suggested that we use hand sanitizer after washing hands in it? So my read of this is that it's all about ingestion. The advice on the Alberta Health Services website talks about going that extra mile when you wash your hands by using hand sanitizer. And just as we've learned and become accustomed to through the COVID-19 pandemic, touching your face is something that we want to avoid. So, to ensure that everyone is absolutely safe, this is indeed an extra measure that makes sense. Diane is asking, why isn't the municipality providing free water to the community during this water advisory? Excuse me. Tonight, there is a meeting of council where numerous measures are being discussed to provide relief to residents and businesses suffering not only from COVID-19 but because of the flood. So this is sure to be discussed, so please tune in starting at 4:30. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that, Matthew, and thank you, Keith, Diane, and Kelton for those questions. Next question is going to be for Mayor Scott, and it comes from Dustin. Dustin is asking, people who registered at the Casman Center, as well as with Red Cross, and did not receive offer of accommodation and had to find their own hotels were told last week by the mayor that they would receive assistance. Pulseline and Red Cross both claim there is not going to be any assistance. Mayor Scott, could you perhaps clarify and provide a response?
Hello again. So this is one of the items that's going to be dealt with hopefully this evening. So there's two possibilities. It'll either be dealt with this evening or next Tuesday when the next council meeting is. But I'm bringing a motion that basically says that somebody who had to go elsewhere and get accommodations without registering will be treated the same as those who did register. So that's a motion. Please watch the council meeting this evening. It's a motion that will be brought by me. There is the potential that it won't be heard tonight. There's a bunch of rules around a special meeting, and that's what tonight is, a special meeting. Everyone has to be present, and everyone has to agree for the item to be debated. So if somebody disagrees with it, then it'll go to another date, which would be the following Tuesday. So it will be dealt with.
Thanks so much for that, Mayor Scott, and thank you, Dustin, for the question. Our next pair of questions are going to be for our CAO, Jamie Doyle. First one here is from Verity. This one's about housing, and the second one, Jamie, is about property taxes. So I'll read both. I'll read the property tax one first. So Holly is asking, is property tax being discounted for downtown area and affected flooded areas? Also, is the water bills for the town being discounted? So before I have Jamie come up and answer that, property taxes were deferred by council until September 30th. Now that doesn't speak to reductions or cancellations or anything along those lines, but those, whatever the tax bill would be, it would not be due until September 30th. So council has already made that deferral, but certainly Jamie can provide more background there, as well as on your question on the water bills. So actually, Jamie, I'll have you come answer that one, and then I'll ask the second one about housing.
Hi, Holly. Thanks for the question, and Adam, thank you as well. Adam's very right. We did defer property tax payments until September 30th. And as I mentioned in the last town hall, or the last Facebook Live, administration, we are looking at all ways that we can take advantage of to make this burden of a boil water order advisory a bit easier on residents, and that will hold a whole host of initiatives like providing water, property tax, water billing, things of that nature. So thank you for the question, Holly.
Well, thank you for that, Jamie, and thank you, Holly, for that question. We'll be with you until about 2:30 p.m. today, so make sure to get those questions in the comment box right below the live video stream, which will be available in its entirety following today's broadcast. We'll be back on Friday with another Facebook Live at 2 p.m. This question's from Verity. Verity asks, will there be any housing accommodation support after May 10th for those that can't return home due to the flood damage in the apartment buildings in King Street, or is that down to the individual's insurance? I'll ask Jamie to come forward once again.
Thanks, Verity, for the question. We understand there's some anxiety about those that are in accommodations now and can't currently get back into their apartment buildings because of damage. One thing I would ask all of those who are having difficulty getting back into their properties that are in apartment buildings is certainly contact your landlord. Many that I've talked to have been doing tours with people to get in and get some things for those that don't have power or gas back on. So those that are currently in accommodations that can't get back into their apartments and things like that, we're certainly going to look after. We're working through that accommodations plan as we speak. However, if you do have insurance, please reach out to them as well. But we are taking every opportunity and trying to find every available option we have to make sure that people are looked after.
Thank you very much for that question, and thank you, Jamie, for the response. We'll go next to Christopher. Christopher is asking, and probably a question that's best for our DCAO or CAO. Christopher's asking, will the RMWB, the municipal projects, still maintain their priority, or will they be put on hold during flood recovery? Matthew.
Hi, Christopher. The answer is yes. Our staff are working very hard with the consulting and and construction sector to ensure that projects do go ahead as scheduled. There are, of course, considerations, particularly work in some of our regional communities has to be adjusted to ensure that people aren't put at risk due to COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew, and thank you, Chris, for that question. I'm going to ask Mayor Scott to come forward in just a minute. He has an update on Canada Post. Of course, Canada Post did stop mail service based on this flood event. As you know, their main office, sorting center is downtown, but Mayor Scott will provide an update. Reminder everyone as well that's tuning in today online, we do our best to provide information as timely as possible. Information is moving quickly, and sometimes it does change while we're here with you on camera on the Facebook Live. So a reminder to always go to rmwb.ca/recovery for the latest updates. We'll always do our best to get you up-to-date information. I'll turn things over to Mayor Scott for the update on Canada Post.
Hi, everyone. So I just got this update that the Canada Post should be fully up and running by Monday or Tuesday. They're going to be issuing news releases So there could be some areas where they're getting delivery before that, but Monday and Tuesday is their target to have everything up and running. They're going to be issuing news releases, so if you could please follow the Canada Post site, you should be able to get updated information on that.
Thank you very much, Mayor Scott, and that's canadapost.ca if you're looking for updates on when mail service will return to the community. Next question is from Dawn. I'm going to go to our CAO, Jamie Doyle, or DCO, perhaps Jamie, probably best for this. Of course, we're still amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, and Dawn asks, with the large amount of non-local workers coming to town to help with restorations because of the flood, what precautions are being taken by the RMWB to keep residents in Wood Buffalo safe?
Thank you, Adam, and thank you, Dom, for the question. Very, very good one. With each of our contractors coming in to do work for us, we're sitting through and going through a safety plan that each contractor must have and must review with us. And of course, that would certainly involve all the occupational health and safety requirements being met, as well as any type of COVID-19 lens applied to those contract works. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and I will ask our CEO, Jamie Doyle, to stay right there. We do have a question related to ACCO. So this is from Abdurrahman, and my apologies that I mispronounced that. He says, I have a question about entering apartments downtown. ACCO assessed by building, the address here is 8016 Franklin Avenue, as safe, and our building owners have not started any remediation of the building. They have in fact mentioned to the security that our building is condemned. Is there anything the municipality can do to compel them to help us get back into our building, or at least our belongings? So we'll go to Jamie for that.
Thank you for the question, and it's a very good one. I haven't heard of any buildings being condemned at that address. What I would suggest is that you come into planning and development, or call them and have a conversation with them about the particular piece of property. The remediation, although we cannot compel somebody to take upon work and do it, we would certainly like to have a conversation with those owners if there's serious concerns of this nature. But please reach out to Planning and Development. They're up here in Timberley Landing, or you can give them a call at 743-7000 through Pulse, and you can speak to someone in Planning and Development to help guide some of those questions in redevelopment and move forward, hopefully. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Jamie, and Abdurrahman, thank you very much. Very important question. Of course, at the municipality, we also have the Landlord Tenant Advisory Board. I don't have the email or the phone number right in front of me, so I'd suggest reaching out to them. And Mayor Scott is the lawyer in the room, at least in his former life, but I advise you to take a look at your lease agreement, take a look at that as a start. Obviously, we're in unprecedented times. We're all trying to work through this together, but it's a very good concern that you have. So check out those two resources, and like Jamie says, always get back in touch with us. That number for the Landlord Tenant Advisory Board is 780-796-5959, and you can always reach the Pulse line at 780-743-7000. Next question, we'll go to our DCAO. Questions from Diane. And Diane asks, there are many businesses providing free water to the community. Why is the municipality not doing this instead of relying on others? Well, thanks so much, Diane. I can advise you that we are providing water to the evacuees. Of course, at one point, the number was close to over 12,000 residents. We know there's 3,000, more than that, registered with the Red Cross, certainly providing that support. But I would say that that's something that speaks to the incredible nature of our community, that we all come together, whether it's the municipality, whether it's business, whether it's social profit, regular residents. The outpouring of volunteers has been absolutely incredible. But great question, and I'll ask Matthew to answer that.
Thank you for the question. Adam has spoken to the water available to those impacted by the flood. 3 flats of water are available to those that are from that area. As far as the water quality itself, that is of course still being delivered and accessible to all residents of Fort McMurray. I will just touch on a couple of specifics. There was a question earlier about whether there is any animal waste in the treated water. No, there is not. As far as the testing that is done to ensure, to confirm that there's no bacteria present, those tests have been done, and at the distribution points there's no bacteria present. I've also been asked, what about the Ntu levels? For those who may work in the area, you'll know that that's the measurement of turbidity in the water, or how clear the water is. And again, at the distribution points at this moment, it is less than 1. So the purpose of the flushing program is to ensure that our pipes are completely clean. As I mentioned a couple of days ago, we're concerned about a film that river water leaves on the inside of our pipes, and that's the flushing program that is underway already, that we're going to give you an additional timeline on over the next couple of days, and that will ensure that we go back to a pre-flood state. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Diane, for that question, and thank you, Matthew. We'll be with you for about another 7 minutes here today on this community Q&A with Mayor Scott and members of municipal administration. We do have a council meeting, a special council meeting today at 4:30 p.m. You can follow along at rmwb.ca/council. Information listed there about how you can participate in tonight's meeting, and also you can view all the agenda items there as well. So I hope you'll join us. And our next regular council meeting will be next Tuesday. I forget the date off the top of my head, but it'll be next Tuesday beginning at 4 p.m. Series of water-related questions. We'll go back to our DCAO for these. I'll just read them all and leave them here so we can go through them individually. First one is from Lisa. Lisa asks, is there any update on the usage of spray parks and home swimming pools? I know it was mentioned that it will be looked into. Cheryl asks, if you have a UV system, is your water safe to drink? Cheryl, I recall you may have asked that last week, but certainly thanks for asking again. It may have been someone else, but I'll allow Matthew to weigh in on that. Gary asks, has the water quality being tested for polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons? And Donnie asks, and I don't think this is the mayor, but who knows? He could be on his phone right now. Are there concerns about effluent in the water from the APAC paper mill south of here? So Matthew allowed for different questions, but all related to the boil water advisory.
So unfortunately, the spray parks throughout Fort McMurray won't be opened until the flushing in those areas, in the boil water advisory in those areas, has been lifted. There is just too much risk of ingestion by children, and so I hope you agree with me that that this is a prudent course of action. As far as home swimming pools, I did speak to that a couple of days ago. My advice is that if you're using any water to fill a swimming pool, that water is then treated to a level that you test, or you take your sample somewhere to have tested to ensure that the use is appropriate. I did speak to this again a couple of days ago, the use of UV systems in the home, and I'm glad, Cheryl, that you raised this again, because home-based treatment systems differ so greatly in quality and in level of maintenance. Our recommendation now is to stay in sync with the advisory, and still, if you plan on consuming water, that water is boiled. The water has been tested, so thanks for the question, Gary, for a wide range of parameters. And so, again, in sync with my commitment earlier, we will provide access to those treatment numbers over the next couple of days. And so, yes, of course, we're checking for presence of hydrocarbons. There are concerns about effluent coming from Alpac. Donnie asked that question. We share the Athabasca River with numerous users, consumers throughout Alberta. And so this is why we treat our water. This is why we test our water. This is why we're held to such a high potable water standard. So I think it's less about being concerned about the source water and focused more on the parameters that we have to meet, the guidelines we have to meet. The guideline that was exceeded was turbidity, and the actions that have been taken since are in sync with what is required by our regulator, Alberta Health Services. Okay. Thank you, Adam. Yeah.
Well, thanks very much for that, Matthew. Thank you for the questions. We've got about a couple minutes left, so we'll try to get to a few more questions. If not, you can join us for tonight's council meeting at 4:30, that live audio stream. Of course, we're still under the COVID-19 suppression regulation. Is at rmwb.ca/council. Tomorrow, we'll have our weekly telephone town hall focused on flood recovery. That'll happen at 6:10 p.m. And then on Friday, we'll be back with another Facebook Live at 2 o'clock. So if you can't join us for any of those, we're always available at rmwb.ca/recovery. You get the latest information on flood recovery as we work together as a community to recover from this unprecedented event. Series of questions for the Chief Administrative Officer here, so I'll read all three, Jamie, and then you can come forward. First one is from Peter. Peter asks, I'd like to know why, during the flood emergency, people, i.e. search and rescue, were posting pics and videos on personal accounts, as well as why are city employees leaking info about what is happening in the city, i.e. water treatment plant? Great question. Umar asks, if we don't have housing after May 10th, what should we do? Stay at the hotel? Who would cover the cost? And Shannon asks, if a business owner is being denied access to their store, will the RMWB help? Where can they contact? Jamie.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for the questions. Shannon, I'll start with you. If a business owner is being denied access to their store, will the RMWB help, and where can they contact? You should have access to your building now. If you're not, you can also go through Wood Buffalo Economic Development Corporation or call the Pulse line and have them direct you as well, and we can get you support that you need. Second question from Umar, sorry if I pronounced that incorrectly. Housing after the 10th. If you do not have power and gas after the 10th and you're displaced because of this flood and you're currently in a hotel room, we are going to endeavor to take care of those individuals. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to be the same hotel, the same room, but we will be looking after you. And the last question from Peter, speaking to the social media posts. Search and rescue isn't part of the regional municipality Wood Buffalo, so I can't control what they're posting on their personal Facebook pages. However, city employees have a code of conduct as well as many other policies within our organization that address certain things like that. So we are watching and we are keeping track of those that are flagged for us where there's inappropriate sharing of information or posting on personal Facebook pages. It just takes a little while to get through some of those, and there is a process by which we undertake to deal with those. So thank you for the question, Peter. And I understand it's been a question for a couple of days, so sorry it's taken this long, but we do have a process in place to look after some of those concerns. Thank you, Peter.
Oh, well, thank you, Jamie, and thank you, everyone, for your questions, and everyone that joined us today for this community Q&A with Mayor Scott and members of municipal administration. We're going to cut things off right now because we do have a council meeting at 4:30 today, but maybe we can join you for a little bit longer on Friday like we did on Monday. So thanks for joining us. Stay safe, stay informed, stay strong. We'll be back with our telephone town hall tomorrow at 6:10 and Facebook Live on Friday at 2 o'clock. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.